So, I mean, trust allows, I think, patients to be comfortable in the office, allows them to be able to open up more.
Yeah.
And that will inevitably lead to better patient outcomes, I think, if you have that trust there.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and then just open and clear communication is another key. And that's just not just giving explanations or instructions, but active listening is key as well.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Today we are continuing our series on helping you get to know the different providers at Kirkpatrick Family Care. And today we have Gordon Hendrickson. Gordon, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So Gordon is a PA here, and I'm excited for you guys to get to know him. He is such a great, not only medical provider, but just a great person. And I think, you'll find out more about that as we get going. So Gordon, why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of your background and your story, and take us from, where you're from and kind of where you did training and how in the world you ended up in of all places, Longview, Washington, here at Kirkpatrick Family Care.
Yeah. So I originally didn't ever think I was going to go into medicine. I graduated high school. I went into the trades, actually building houses. I did that for about 4 years. I always knew I wanted to go back to school, some sort of engineering. So that's what I went back for. But then I found the medical field, and I thought, I'm going to go to med school. I'm going to be a doctor, maybe be a cardiologist.
Yeah,
that's kind of the goal. But then, I got married, had a couple kids. Then I found out about the PA profession. I didn't know about it before that. So I did some shadowing with some PAs. I found out about it, and I was like, yeah, this is going to be it. This is going to be for me. I went to the University of Minnesota for undergraduate, and then I went to Rocky Mountain College in Billings, Montana for graduate training and physician assistant. It's the training. It was great. It was great in Billings. Had my family there with me. Had our third child there while we were in Billings.
Wow.
It's been great.
That's awesome. Tell me a little bit. That's not the average transition where someone goes from building houses to all of a sudden, thinking about a career in medicine. Can you tell me kind of how did that kind of process evolve, and how did you go from thinking I'm going to build houses for the rest of my life to going into medicine? What drew you to medicine?
So I always knew I wanted to go back to school. I wasn't going to build houses for the rest of my life, even though it's pretty enjoyable. So I wanted to go into biomedical engineering. I was in an accident when I was about 13, 14, hit by a car, tore my aorta.
Oh, wow.
And it kind of got me into the biomedical realm. So I got into that program at the University of Minnesota. Figured out it's not really what I had anticipated. And then I always really liked physiology and medicine. So I think it was just kind of a natural progression to that field.
Awesome. I want to ask you about this because you brought it up, but we can edit this out if you don't want this in, and I mean that. But you mentioned you were hit by a car and tore your aorta. Did that have any sort of clearly that must have kind of caused you to have an early interaction with the healthcare system and give you some ideas about being a medical provider, because you were a patient. Can you talk about what it was like to be a patient, and maybe how that, now that you're on the other side of it, what that's like?
Yeah, for sure. It was a huge life-changing event that I had. The biggest thing that happened was tore my aorta. I had to have emergent surgery for that. Ruptured my spleen, damaged my liver, broke my arm, my knee, broke some ribs. It was in the hospital, ICU for a while, and then the appointments going afterwards, and physical therapy for up to a year after that. Physical therapy. I was in a wheelchair for a while. My arm was paralyzed. I had to regain the use of my arm. So yeah, I definitely understand from a patient perspective. It can be tough.
Do you feel like that makes you a better provider because you've been on the other side of that? You've seen what people can go through because that's a pretty incredible thing that you went through, and to come out on the other side is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I like to think so. I can put myself in some patient's shoes and understand what it's like to go all through this stuff. At the time I didn't really understand what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how a lot of patients are. They don't really understand. They're just doing what they're told, and they're just taking it one day at a time.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's I knew some of those details, but not all of that. That's pretty amazing that you had to go through that. And I think, it's clear to me when I work with you that you're a pretty motivated guy, that you take, every day is a day that you're here to serve others. And it sort of makes sense, having gone through what you've gone, that you would pour out so much to patients on a daily basis, that I honestly do see you do that every day. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for doing that for everyone here. Moving on a bit, I wanted to ask you, so you're from Minnesota to Montana. How in the world do you end up in Longview, Washington? Which we're so glad you are, but there's not a natural connection, it doesn't sound like, unless maybe I'm missing something.
Well, I got a lot of relatives around, mostly in Battleground, Vancouver area.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, my mom, she actually grew up around here.
Very cool.
So my mom's parents, they died when I was in third grade, but yeah, they were out here. We spent a lot of summers out here. My grandparents on my dad's side are actually still out here living in Battleground.
Awesome.
So I have a lot of aunts and uncles, cousins, friends. So there was definitely a lot of ties to the area.
That's cool. I did not know that. That's really cool. Well, we are really lucky that you have family here and gave us a chance. So thank you. Moving on to, I think I wanted to get people a kind of look inside to you, because I think, it's important for us to know patients, but it's important for patients to know us. And so now that we've heard a little bit about you, can you tell me about, especially in primary care, relationships are so important. So can you talk to me about kind of what you think are some of the important things that you do in order to make sure that you have a good relationship with that person who's, entrusting their life with you as their primary care provider?
Yeah, trust and communication are big keys there. Patients need to feel confident the trust in their provider, that their provider is competent, and that they actually have their best interest in mind. Trust, it allows, I think, patients to be comfortable in the office, allows them to be able to open up more. Yeah. And that will inevitably lead to better patient outcomes, I think, if you have that trust there.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and then just open and clear communication is another key. And that's just not just giving explanations or instructions, but active listening is key as well.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I think it's funny. I've talked with some of our other colleagues about this, and trust is a word that keeps coming up, and I think that's I think it's so cool that we're recognizing that, because I get the sense that there's this huge mistrust of the medical system in general, and that patients are, one of the reasons they're so displeased with their care that they receive is that they don't feel like they trust that person on the other side. And so that's cool to hear that, it's very important to you to establish trust. Obviously relationships are part of being a good primary care provider. Can you tell me about kind of, someone walks into the door and they're like, hey, Gordon, I want you to be my primary care doctor. What's kind of your general approach to patient care?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. I think probably the biggest thing is patient-centered care. I want the patient to be at the center of everything. Patients should be you should be partners in healthcare with your provider. So actively involving them in decision making, listening to their concerns, really taking all that into consideration. Everyone's unique. Every patient's unique. So I think their care ought to reflect that.
I have not heard someone describe it as a partnership. And I think that's an even better word than relationship. Relationship is kind of this vague, overused term. I'm going to steal that from you. I'm going to steal the term partnership, because it's we're on equal foot. I mean, there's not a power imbalance. And if there is, you were doing it wrong, and I love that idea of a partnership where you're unique, help us help you, and not we're going to tell you how to do things. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, and then I want to kind of close with some more fun questions, but, in primary care or really any form of medicine, I feel like we are asking some pretty, personal and sometimes sort of invasive questions. And on the flip side, patients are often telling us things that they don't tell anybody else. And that's important for that relationship. Can you talk to me about sort of how you go about having difficult conversations with people? Maybe it's a bad diagnosis, or it's talking about a mental health concern, or, sensitive subjects like weight management, or just these difficult conversations that you're probably forced to do every week. Can you kind of tell us how you handle those things?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes back to trust and building that trusting environment. Before discussing all those difficult to talk about conversations, you want to, create a comfortable space where the patient feels free to open up, feels free to talk about these things. Building rapport with them, letting them know that their concerns are valid, and that, I'm ultimately just here to help, here to listen. And then I think also using, clear, compassionate language is another, I think, a big thing. Communicating in a clear and compassionate manner. You want to use, I think, language that's supportive and not demanding. Like, you need to do this, you need to do that. If patients hear too much or so much things like you need to do this or that, I think they just tend to don't listen as much.
Yeah.
And then another thing would be normalizing the experience. I think just letting them know that, this is common. It's commonplace for people to experience anxiety, depression, stress.
Yeah.
And that, there's a lot of people dealing with that, and that seeking help, I think, is a good positive step. I think this can help reduce that stigma that they have a lot, with some of these sensitive topics.
That is such a great point. I think there's millions of people that struggle with each one, whether it's anxiety or weight or depression or, sexually transmitted things or addiction or whatever, things. It's almost abnormal if you don't have something that you're struggling with on a personal level, or a health level. And so I like to use the word normalize, because it is it is normal for a human to struggle in some way. And so we should be normalizing that. It's part of human existence. And I think that's a great point that, if someone comes to you with a concern, not only have you probably seen that same concern 100 different times before, but there's literally millions of people going through the same thing. It's not, they shouldn't feel shameful or anything, because it's normal for that. And we don't want them to think that we're looking down on them, or that, oh my gosh, how come they're struggling with that? I like that. That's a perfect word, is normalize. And that you're here to help,
I think another thing to add is, I think respecting their autonomy is also pretty important.
Yes.
Ultimately, it's up to them to make the decision. I think you can offer them recommendations, and it comes back to the trust. If they, you hope they trust you and that they'll follow your advice, and but giving them space to make their own decisions is ultimately a good thing to do. Yeah.
I think that gets back to what you were saying about a partnership. Like, in a partnership, each partner has, you as the partner have the ability to recommend something, and they as the other partner have the ability to say, hey, thanks, but no thanks. And just like with the patient, it's their body, it's their choice. We're here to help them get the information and give our recommendations. But I'm sure you probably practice like me, where you're like, I never want you to do something you don't want to do to the patient, or you don't feel comfortable with. And I think it gets back to that word of partnership, which like I said, I'm going to steal from you. It's such a good way to phrase it. Okay, now I want to ask you about some stuff that I think is literally like superhuman, that I can't believe that you do this. So can you tell us about what in your personal life, what feat you recently accomplished?
Are you talking about the house?
Yes, I'm talking about the house.
Yeah. So me and my wife built a house, Castle Rock. It's a big project. There's a lot of work, as you can imagine. It took, over a year if you take into account all the planning, all the, the engineering, permitting, all that.
Yeah.
Site work. Yeah.
Now, I want to be clear. If I were to say that me and my wife built the house, I would mean that I hired somebody to build my house. That is not what you mean, correct?
Yeah, we did hire some things out, but no, we did most of it. We did, the dirt work. We hired out the foundation.
Okay.
But yeah, we did the framing, the roofing, siding, windows, doors, exterior, interior painting.
I know I probably sound like a broken record every time I see you, but as someone who couldn't put together a coffee table from IKEA, the fact that you literally built your house, it was just you and your wife basically doing almost everything, right?
Yeah, we definitely had some help with some friends for some of the bigger stuff. But,
okay.
It's just basically us out there, us and the kids, put them to work when we can. But yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's rewarding when you finish.
Oh, I'm serious. If I were to put together an IKEA coffee table, I would feel like I accomplished something so incredible. And you built a house, man. Like, that is incredible. And one of the things I really love about it too, I just feel like it's so, it's just so symbolic of, I think our town, our area, Cowlitz County, is built on like blue collar work and blue collar industry. That's literally how this town got started. That's what most people do here. And for you to be a medical provider who also can literally build your own house in your own hands, I think is such a cool thing to have in our community. And I think it's something that so many people will relate to. I think you probably feel like me, like I love when I have some connection with a patient and it allows that relationship. And I'm sure there's other patients who build their house or do construction or blue collar work, and they would love the idea of like, no way, like my primary care provider can build his own house. Like, I think that is so cool and helps foster that relationship. So I know I'm probably sounding like a fanboy or something, but I could not imagine a more difficult thing to do. And I am amazed that you did that, man. That is incredible.
Yeah. I came from that background, after high school for a few years, but it was, we wanted a certain house, and we found the plan to do it, and we decided just to do it ourselves. We thought about hiring it out. We kind of, weighed the pros and cons and everything, and ultimately decided let's just do it ourselves and see how it goes.
But I get the sense you liked it. It's hard, but you liked the work of like getting it done, putting your own touches on it, doing it yourself. It wasn't something that you were like begrudgingly doing. You enjoyed it, yeah.
I enjoy all that sort of work, as long as it's not raining too hard.
Yeah. Oh, fair. And the last thing, I know we weren't planning this, but I've just learned as we were recording pre-show, or as we were talking pre-show, that you are an avid like marathoner, ultra marathoner, and I know we got a lot of patients out there and watchers that are as well. So tell me about kind of some of your runs in the past and what you are planning to do in the upcoming few months.
I wouldn't say avid marathoner.
Okay.
I've done 2 marathons.
Okay, my bad.
Kind of getting back into it. So that's the goal for over the next summer. Done a couple of marathons. I've done a 50K. I did that in the Bighorn Mountains in Wyoming.
Wow.
I'm planning on doing a 50K here in Washington, and then a 50-miler in Tillamook, Oregon in April. No, that's in May. And then the Bighorn 100-mile race in Dayton, Wyoming, coming up in June.
And so I had to ask you about this because I imagine, okay, you're running 100 miles. How many days? I was thinking, gosh, I wonder how many days he's going to spread that out over. I found out that is the wrong question to ask.
Yeah. So it's, the elite runners, they can get, under 24 hours, under a day. So that would be, that'd be pretty fast. So, I would shoot for under 30 hours would be a good goal time.
Continuous running.
Yeah, you stop at aid stations and, you refuel, restock your pack and all that, but then you just, put a headlamp on and keep going.
Man, that is incredible. I have that is not an easy thing to do, and to choose to do that, that's incredible. So, and I also love too, I mean, we're trying to get our patients to exercise, and running or doing some cardio is one of the most important things you can do. And I love that you're someone who's living it, and I'm now, when I'm running and doing cardio and thinking about how I can't stand that I went 40 minutes on elliptical, I'll think of, you're going to go 30 straight hours, and that'll give me a little extra motivation.
Yeah, well, it helps if you're outside in nature, out in the mountains. I don't know if I could do it on a treadmill.
Yeah, that would be impressive. Well, Gordon, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your story, and for coming here. I think I mean this when I say this. We are lucky to have you. I trust you. It's funny you mentioned the word trust. I trust you as a medical provider. I trust you as a teammate and a colleague. And we are really, really lucky to have someone, not as the medical knowledge of you, but also the person. And I would not say that if I didn't believe that. We are really, really lucky to have you. Our patients are lucky to have you. And thank you for being here. You as a medical provider have a lot of different options with your life, and you chose to be here. And our community is super grateful for it. So thank you so much, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, I'm going on 2.5 years here now, and everything's been awesome so far. Everyone at the clinic is great. That small town family feel.
Yes.
It's just,
yes.
It's just awesome.
Awesome. Well, Gordon Hendrickson, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thank you.